everyone, Rita Lynne here. This is the class we're going to be doing today. This is an art vessel, and as you can see, it's dimensional. It's all done with fabric, and there's no machine stitching. This is all done with hand stitching. This is a fun class if you've never done anything that's dimensional with your fabric before. We're going to also be learning how to do these dimensional flowers. I call this particular art vessel Gratitude Blooms. So we're going to be thinking about two things while we're working on this. One, learning new ways to work with your fabric, and number two, each of the flowers represents a person, a place, a thing, a moment you have gratitude for in your life. And this becomes a personal memory. It's kind of a fun way to have another attachment to why we do the things we do with our fabric. So come join me. You're going to enjoy this class as much as I am going to enjoy meeting with you. Hi, let's start by going over the supply list. Here's our wonderful vessel that you're going to be finishing. I'm going to take that aside for right now. And here is a copy of the supply list. So let's start with what you're going to need for the vessel supplies. And then I'll show you each of the individual things so you can see what I've used. We're going to use outer and inner fabric. The dimensions are here, 22 by 6 for the outer, 20 by 6 by the inside. I like to use, let me put this right here. I like to use like a nice color, something that's going to enhance the flowers that I use, and then a much softer fabric for the inside so that they complement each other, but the inside fabric does not fight with the outside fabric. So those are the fabrics that I would probably be using. Stiffen is the product that I use to really, it's important for forming the vessel. You can see it's flexible, but it's also very firm. Now you got a couple of choices. If you don't want to use the one that I have on my website, this is the one I recommend that you get. It's made by Pellon. You can get it at any major craft or quilt store, or you can order it online. It's Peltex 72F double-sided fusible ultra-firm stabilizer. That's a mouthful, but it's really important that you get the right kind. So there's your stabilizer. We've got that much down. So we're down to there. Fusible. I use my own. You can buy it on my website. I use Misty Fuse. Anything that's going to be a nice, lightweight, not heavy, but it's definitely going to be a fusible that you're going to be using. Thread, anything that will complement your vessel. As you can see, you can hardly see the color of the thread because I made sure that it just complemented it. You don't have to though. I've made many vessels where you've used a really bright color. And then I use a file folder to copy the patterns. Here's the patterns that you're going to get. And then I trace them onto a piece of file folder. You want something again that's going to be firm because you're going to be tracing these. And I cut all of them out and labeled them and use them all the time. So you can use them more than once. But I really think you should use something. You can use anything you want, but I like the file folders. They're inexpensive and they're accessible. Now, the next step that we go to is got to do with the flowers. So the first thing I want you to do is get a cream colored or a white colored piece of fabric. You're going to need about 1/8 of a yard, and the directions tell you how much you need to cut. But any kind of cotton is going to be just fine. I use a light color because we're going to be painting this fabric. So the next thing that you're going to need, and this is the important secret thing that I use when I am making my flowers stand up. See how firm these are? It's really, this is the main trick that I use to make sure that I've got flowers that are going to stand up. This is called Heat and Bond Ultra Hold. Now they make several different products, but you want the Ultra Hold, and it comes in a packet like this, which is a yard. This is the easiest and simplest one to get. You can probably get 1/8 of a yard because that's really all that you need. But I mean 1/4 of a yard. But in any case, this is the one that you want. That's really, really key to having the effects you want. Seed beads, any kind of beads that you want to put in there. You can see that I've used a variety of beads, and that's what you want. You're not going to need that many of those. Certainly you've got those laying around. Light and dark green. I use kind of a muted. I think that's much more interesting than a flat green. So whatever you can find in your stash or whatever, gosh, maybe you have to go buy some. Wouldn't that be a shame? But you don't really need that much. 7" by 7" scrap, but see how it's much more interesting when it's got a kind of a muted effect to it. And let's see, what have we got next? The Inktense pencils. You have an option. You can go out and buy a 24 kit like this, or you can buy, I think, a packet of 6. And in some stores, you can even go ahead and buy the individual ones. And that's what I've got here. I've got the 24 kit because I use this a lot, but this is what they look like. And I do have a video on my YouTube channel on how to use these, so when you get a chance, you might want to take a look at that. So let's see, we've gone as far as looking at the Inktense pencils, or you can use acrylic paints if you want to. Either way, you're going to want to purchase the key to making this work. It's called Textile Medium. This is normally the one I buy. You can tell I've had this a long time. You don't need any more than the 2-ounce container because it really goes a long way. Again, you can find this at any Joann's, Michael's, Hobby Lobby, quilt stores of all kinds, but it's Textile Medium. Some of them now are calling it Textile Medium for fabric painting. That's okay too. Whatever the label is, you just want to make sure that it's Textile Medium that you are using. And then the last thing that we're going to take a look at are the brushes. And as you can see, these are the brushes that I've been using. Don't buy an expensive brush. It's just a very, very inexpensive fiber brush that we use. But what's important about it is that this one is a very, very stiff brush. This is what you want. We call this a scrubber. And you can see, can you hear that? It scrubs it scrubs the paint right into the fabric. I also use this one, which is an angular, so that you can paint on the petals if you want to, and then a fine line. But the most important one is going to be the scrubber, and the most important product to get success is going to be the textile medium that you use. And then the last thing are your typical things like your fabric scissors, your craft scissors. You're going to need either a rotary or whatever you use to cut your fabric. I really suggest that you get a mini iron like this, not only for this project, but boy, it's really handy to have. You're going to need a glue gun and the glue that goes with it, and then you can use either parchment paper, which we've got right here. You can buy this at the dollar store. Doesn't have to be the expensive kind. Parchment paper and or a Teflon sheet, which you can really get at any one of your craft stores. Actually at Joann's, I found these over where they have the paper products. I was real surprised, but I can understand why, because this really protects, everything, because if you've got heat or you've got fusible, you won't get it on your iron plate and you won't get it where you don't want it. So there you have it, my friends. That's everything that you need. Well, now that you have the supply list, let's go on to the very first step of cutting out the panels and getting ourselves ready to create the art vessel. So let's get started. Hi. Okay, I want to show you the two fabrics that I chose for the vessel. This is the outside fabric. I really liked it because it has, it's muted, but it's got a lot of activity in it, and it's got nice colors, but nothing that screams at you. Then on the inside, I chose a very muted, it's actually beige with a little bit of gold sparkle in it, so anything that is calmer on the inside is what I chose. You choose whatever you want. My goal was I don't want the fabrics to conflict with each other. So I have a tendency, if I'm going to have a good looking gotcha kind of fabric, it's going to be on the outside, and the inside one is going to be quieter. Okay, once you've chosen your fabrics, take your pattern, cut it out, and I trace it onto a file folder. This is much stronger than a piece of paper, and it will work well when you're wanting to cut out your patterns. So you can start with the stabilizer, and I told you you can use the Pellon, I believe it's number 72. It's on the supply list, or you can get it from me on the website. But see, it's scratchy. It has fusible on both sides, and it's flexible, but not super, super stiff. So you're going to cut out what you need, and then you're going to trace it with your pattern, and you're going to do this 4 times for the vessel and 1 time for the base. And I go ahead and I just use a pen for this because this isn't going to show. So we go like this, and then you're going to cut this out. You know, I don't use my good scissors whenever I'm cutting out something that has a fusible or a glue or an adhesive on it. So the ones that I use are going to be the ones that I use for paper rather than the ones that I use for fabric. I don't let anybody touch my scissors that I have for fabric. That's how valuable that is to me. I went ahead and bought the most expensive ones. I think they're like $50 a piece. Best investment ever. Okay, so as you can see, I have this all done. Now I'm going to set this aside for a minute, and I'm going to put fusible on both my fabrics. This is like a double insurance to make sure that everything is going to stick together. Now, I do have this on a Teflon sheet so that any place where the glue is off the fabric, it won't go onto my ironing pad. And then I take another, well, let me get this together, and then I'll take another one and put it over it. Here is the fabric that I'm using for the outside. Here is the fabric I'm using for the inside. And I have cut out a size fusible to exactly what I think I need. Let's see what we've got here. Okay, and then I'm going to lay over the top of this another piece of the Teflon. This way everything is protected. I have my iron set on hot cotton, dry, and I'm not ironing it back and forth. I'm just pressing down. If I ironed back and forth, the fusible, it could move around, and we don't want that. You probably only need about 5 or 6 seconds each time that you press down, because this does, with a hot cotton dry iron, it does adhere pretty quickly. Okay, so let's take a look and see what we have. I can see that it is a shiny side, so it worked really well. So I'm going to cool this off. And next I'll show you how we cut this out. While I'm letting this one cool, what I'm going to do is there's 2 different things that need to be addressed here. One is when, and it's in your directions, when you are cutting out the fabric for the front, you are going to need a 1/2 inch on each side of a margin. I'm going to guess at it because I've done this enough times where this would be approximately what I need. So I draw this out about a 1/2 inch. I probably wouldn't go any less than 1/2 inch. And about the same, not quite the same on the top. That's important because what's going to happen, and it's in the next video, is I will snip these places where I think that it might be a tight curve. Your intention is going to be to fold this over and have a nice smooth edge. So you want to be sure that you have that 1/2 inch margin on this one. However, on the inside fabric, you don't need to do that. You just lay it down, start to follow the pattern. I'm using the stabilizer one because that is eventually where this is going to go. These 2 are going to come together. And now, all I have to do is cut out 4 of these, and we're ready to go on to the next thing. Remember, this isn't about being perfect. You're learning a new skill, and you're learning a new way to be using your expressive creativity. So take your time, enjoy the experiences of all of this. Okay, as you can see now, this is the stabilizer. I'm letting you see the shine on it because that's the glue, that's the adhesive. It has been ironed on this side so that it's nice and smooth. I broke the curves by cutting these little inserts so that when I get to roll this over and I want to heat it to adhere to the other side, it breaks the tension and makes it look a lot nicer. It's a lot easier, a lot smoother on the curves. This is a piece of parchment paper. And when I take my small iron and I'm going to curve it over, you can see where the tiny little iron could hit the glue, and that could become kind of an issue with glue on my iron plate. So get a little piece of parchment paper, and then as you turn it over, especially if you're going to use your big iron on this, then you just pull it off. It's a great way to keep it from getting gluey. I think you can see there's a little bit of glue there. By the way, the way to get that glue off of your iron plate is with, what are those things called? You put them in your dryer shirt sheets. That's what they are. Okay, so now that has been done. Now I'm going to roll this over and press it down. And this one, and press it down. And start to come around here. I'm moving the piece of parchment paper as we go. And because I've broken the tension, you can see how the cloth will roll over itself, just so it'll fit really nicely right across the bottom and the sides here. So I'm going to continue to do the sides and here. And I'll come back and I'll show you how I clean this up. I'm not worried about this. This is where we use a glue stick, but I want to get this over as cleanly as I can. So that goes there. This one's going to go here. And I'll use a little glue stick to just clean that one up. Now, because I'm left-handed, I'm going to continue by just turning this and going this way. And here's the bottom. This is a really nice way to finish this off. Actually, this is a real easy way, because once we have this complete, meaning that we've got this this all down, the front side is glued down, and this is down, then I'll show you how we put the inside piece on here. So now I'm ready to do to the side here the same thing. Get it and roll it over, and roll it over. This little iron gets pretty hot. It's pretty tricky. Tell me how I know that. Because I touched it a few times, quite unsurprised. I'm quite surprised. It's like, ooh, that's kind of hot there. Okay, so see how nicely this is? It's really, and then I've still got my piece of parchment here if I need it. In fact, I'll probably just do this. Give it a little scrub. Make sure that I've got that. And then I'll clean this up with a little bit of glue. And now, outside of the little spaces where I've got to tidy that up, let's do this one again. Okay, see how nice that's going to look? And then I'll tidy this up. Okay, I'm going to go on to the next one and show you how we do it one more time. And here's my little piece of parchment paper, and I roll this over. And it's just a real good way to protect your iron. And then I keep those, what do you call those things again? Those little things that you put in your dryer. I can't remember what those are called. Dryer sheets, thank you. I keep those handy. They clean up the plate beautifully. You just rub it against, like, let's imagine that this was one of those dryer sheets, and you just rub this against it, and oh my gosh, the glue comes right off. It cleans it up beautifully. But you all probably already know that trick. Okay, so there's that one. Now this is pretty short. Let's see what we can do here. This is, again, one of the advantages when you have one of these little irons, how you can get in and get this. I cut this one way short. So I'm going to bring this piece over here just to be safe. And just gently roll this over. And roll this one over. And this is probably a cleaner edge. We'll go here, and we'll go here, and we'll go here, and then we come down to the edge here. Okay, so I think you get the idea. I'll kind of tidy that guy up. If I can't get that to roll over, you know what? I bet there's no fusible on that. I'll just use the glue stick on there. And so then I'm going to continue and do the other side. And then when I come back, I will show you how we put the back on. Okay. Okay, now I want to show you we've done the front. We've sealed it over to the back. We still have a sticky side here. We have the inside fabric, which is this one. I hope you can see if I move it a little bit towards the light. It has, there you go. It has got stable fusible on it, and that's to our advantage when we lay this down. Because you've got fusible on it, it's going to be able to fuse not only there, but all along the side and give you a nice finished edge. So line it up. If you have to do any trimming on the sides where you may have cut it too big, go ahead and do that. It doesn't have to be absolutely exact because remember, this is the inside, but it has to be close enough to the edge so that when you stitch two panels together, you're going to be picking up both these fabrics. So I have my iron on cotton dry, and I am going to press. Leave it there for anywhere from 5 to 8 seconds, and press again to make sure that I have this all sealed. And let's take a look. What I'll do is I'll trim this off right here. No big deal again, I can just make sure that I get that trimmed off. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do the same thing with this one. I'll do it with all 4 of them, and then we'll be ready to go on to the next step. Like I said, just trim it off if it doesn't seem to fit right. Sometimes that happens. But this is a very, very easy way to make sure that you have this all adhered beautifully. Okay, there we go. We got 2 of them done. We're going to do 2 more and go on to the next thing. Okay, I want to show you how we put the 2 panels together. We start by lining up and making sure that the bottom edge is even, that the 2 panels are even on the bottom. That way everything else will be manipulated if it needs to be. For example, over here, if I need to manipulate this, I can do that. But once it's anchored down here, we're good to go, and we're going to get a nice smooth line. So I've got, for demonstration purposes, I have got an embroidery thread, and I had started on the inside. Inside here, I tied the knot, and I came through from the inside, buried the knot, and then I'm coming over to this side about equidistance. I want to make sure that I'm coming in enough from the outside edge to the inside edge to be sure that I'm getting the material from both the inside and the outside fabric of both panels. My hands are a little sweaty, so I have to push it a little bit. And this is how easy this whip stitch is. You just bring it over, manipulate the thread so that it's within the distance that you want. See how pretty that's going to be? I'll do another one, making sure again that I'm approximately the same width. Bringing this through, and there you have it. So you can see that this is going to hold these 2 together beautifully, and it looks really attractive. Now for this particular vessel, I am using a thread that is complementary. It literally just blends right in, but you use whatever threads you want. I used a green thread on the Crazy Quilt vessel to be sure that I had a complementary solid color for all the colors that are in the Crazy Quilt. Green seemed like the most logical color to use, but you use whatever you want. So there you go. There's the information on the whip stitch. Okay, I want to show you what I've done so far. And what we're going to do next, you can see here that I've got two sides together here, two sides together here. So these now are 2 units. Okay, and now I'm going to put them together. So I take one side, which is what I have here, and I put them together. You just have to manipulate this a little bit so that they're not in each other's way. I use 2 clips here to help me to keep it all intact, and instead of having to worry if it's going to come loose or move around too much. And I've started doing the same whip stitch right there. So we're going to do a little bit more. And what I'll be doing, get this out of here, come on. I'm going to continue this whip stitch all the way up, just like I did on the other 2 panels. You can manipulate these panels as much as you need to, because you can put a hot iron on them, a cotton dry iron on them, and they'll come back to the form that they were in before. So you can see that I've got these bent pretty tight, but it's no problem. It's just a convenience for you to make sure that you've got what you need in order to get the stitching done down the panel. So I'll do a few more of these, and then we'll see what we've got to do to get the bottom done. Okay, I wanted to show you where we are. Looky here, we got this all done. Let me see if I can pull out a little more. There. It's all done except for the bottom, and I'm going to bring this up a little closer so you can see now what I've done. It may look as if it's not going to fit, but it will. I'm going to take this apart right here. What I've done is used the whip stitch, you see that, and attached it one time. Now it may not look like it's going to fit, but it will as you make it fit right in from side to side. At this point, you guys, what you can do is you can either continue with the whip stitch all the way around, and it will manipulate itself and fit right into the corners like it's supposed to. Or you can use a hot glue gun. Either one works just fine for the finishing parts of this. Now the other part that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to put my iron on these things right here. I'm going to press on this one and hold it out, this one and hold it out, and the same thing here and here. When you put some heat on this and hold it where it's supposed to be, it has good memory and it will stay that way. I would rather that these be out, spread out, than to have them bunched up like that. But let's finish the bottom, and then we'll go on and put the decorations on.